The following video is sponsored by the Greek American Heritage Society of Philadelphia.
Well, thanks to Patriarch Bartholomew and his efforts to bring all of the Orthodox together to work as a team and not to be too individualistic and separate, I think we have Orthodoxy coming together in such a way where we're going to start interacting and communicating with one another, and also start to address some of the issues that we have to face in this day and age.
We're talking with Father Stephen Vlahos, who just recently celebrated 50 years in the priesthood. Father Vlahos, welcome to Cosmos Philly.
Thank you, Lefthady. It's nice to be here with you and Vasily.
Let's get a little background. First, we know that you come to us via the Chicago area. Give us a little background history about growing up in Chicago, where you were born.
Well, I was born in Chicago in, what year was I born? 1937. And my grandparents immigrated from Tripolis, Greece, from Arcadia in 1898. And all four of my grandparents, my mother's parents and my father's parents, were from the same region of Greece. They settled in Chicago, and my parents were born in Chicago as well, Demetrios and Theodora Vlahos. And then we went to, from my birth there, I went to a Greek school, Sunday school, choir, GOYA, all of the normal activities that young people were related with in that day and age, and graduated from elementary school and high school. And after graduating high school, I went to the seminary in Boston.
And then how did you end up here in Cherry Hill, New Jersey?
Well, when I graduated the seminary in 1963, I was assigned to, as a lay assistant and youth director, to the priest in Baltimore, Maryland, the Annunciation Church there. His name was Father George Gallus, a wonderful, wonderful priest. And he was a great mentor for me, and that's where I met my wife, Chrissy. And we were married in August of 1964 at the St. Sophia Cathedral in Washington, because the church in Baltimore was being remodeled, and we would have had to have gotten married in a gymnasium. And you know how gymnasiums smell. So we did get married in the gymnasium. We went to St. Sophia Cathedral in Washington for our wedding. And following our marriage, I was ordained a priest in Chicago, a deacon actually, in 1964, September 13th, I was ordained a deacon, and September 14th, I was ordained a presbyteros, or priest. And then from there, I was assigned to my first parish, which was in Little Rock, Arkansas, a wonderful, wonderful parish, 50 families, and we served there for 3 years. Then we were assigned to another parish in Rockford, Illinois. From Rockford, Illinois, we were transferred to organize a new parish in Bethesda, Maryland. And from Bethesda, we ended up in Cherry Hill, and from Cherry Hill, we ended up in Wildwood.
Some people have called you a maverick or a trailblazer in the community for your forward-thinking projects. Can we talk about some of the projects? Everyone knows that we, in the Philadelphia metropolitan area, host Greek festivals. Most people don't know that the Greek festival originated through some of your efforts. Can you talk about that one?
Yes. In 1971, when I came to Cherry Hill, I was interested in organizing a Greek festival. I introduced the idea to the parish council, which was not did not accept it. So I went to the Ladies Philoptical Society. The ladies in the Cherry Hill parish were accustomed to having a bake festival, or a Greek pastry festival at the Cherry Hill Mall. And I said to the ladies, let's not do that anymore. Let's do a Greek festival at the church. And the ladies supported me, and that's how the first Greek festival was started in Cherry Hill. And in fact, Harry Karapalidis was a member of the band that I had organized then, and so was George Pappas, there were several young people that I had organized 2 bands in Cherry Hill, and it was very interesting. We enjoyed it, and the festival kept growing, and it's still there today, supporting the parish.
Most people that don't know this, the band today is called Atlantis of Philadelphia, but that band originally was called Orpheus, and you started that with a handful of kids, I think, in the church. Can you talk about that a little bit more?
Yes, well, I thought it was important that our young people become engaged in our musical background, our musical heritage. And as a result of that, we organized the 2 bands. The one was the Orpheus and the other was the Pappas Brothers. And these 2 bands played for our festival for a number of years gratis as a part of their development. And today, I'm grateful that we have remnants of this work. It's great to have, to start things, but it's also great to see things continuing over the years. And Harry Karapalidis and his orchestra have done a marvelous job in this region.
So how many years were you actually at St. Thomas then?
I was there for 15 years.
15 years.
St. Thomas for 15
okay.
years.
There came a time where you decided to move on. You left you stayed in the priesthood part-time, but you took another position. Could you talk about that?
Well, I was at St. Thomas for 15 years. During that time, we did a lot of progressive things. We did the iconography throughout the church building, the stained glass windows. Then we built a community center, and we had a lot of youth activities, Greek school activities, Sunday school activities, and so on. And of course, the ladies of the Philoptochos continued to work hard for the Greek festival, which we called the Agora. And then in 1986, I asked the Metropolitan for a temporary leave of absence from full-time ministry, and then I got a position with the Camden County government in the office of the Surrogate of Camden County, and I was in charge of community outreach and public relations in that office for 20 years, and I enjoyed that very, very much because it gave me an opportunity to take my priesthood and my concern for people into the community at large, and to help thousands of people to acquire wills, living wills, and powers of attorney. And in fact, I used to advise the senior citizens, when anyone calls you on the phone that you don't know, do what my yaya would do. No speak English, and hang up the phone. So I gave a lot of people that advice.
If you wouldn't have been a priest, what other career would you have explored?
I didn't really think of exploring any other career, to be frank with you, because as I mentioned in my address at the Adelphia on the 50th anniversary of my ordination of the priesthood, I was offered in 1964, actually 63, I'm sorry. For the 7 years that I was in seminary, I worked in a restaurant. I started as a dishwasher while I was still in high school, and by the time I finished my seminary studies, the fellow that I worked for, the company that I worked for, offered me a position to become an administrative officer in the company and to give me $12,000 a year in 1963, and also to study business administration. I also had an offer from a Greek family in Chicago who had a bakery which was called the Marianne Baking Company. They later became the bakers of McDonald's buns and rolls. And this family offered me to become a partner in the first McDonald's franchise in the city of Chicago. But again, I wanted to be a priest, and I passed that up. So I had no other desire. From a young boy, I wanted to be a priest. In fact, my yaya would tell me that I would come home from church and I would put a cloth over the sewing machine, light incense, and do prayers in front of the sewing machine, as though I were a priest.
So 50 years as a priest, 40 years here in the metropolitan Philadelphia area. There must be a few individuals to mention that have been very influential to you. Could you tell us about some of them?
Yes. My grandmother was extremely influential in my life because she would take me to church every Sunday. We would transfer 2 buses to get to the Assumption Church in Chicago on the west side for the services. And she was a positive influence in my life in connecting me with the church, although my home and my parents, although they were born in this country, our home was a Greek home. I went to kindergarten not knowing 1 word of English because Greek was the language that was spoken in my home. But as one of the Jewish neighbors told my grandmother, she said, "Don't worry, he's going to learn English from inside of the windows." In other words, it's inevitable that you would learn the language of the land. But I always appreciated the Greek language and the culture and so on. And the important thing I must say, after my grandmother, the important person in my life that influenced me a lot were my clergy, my priests. I had a phenomenal priest by the name of Father George Mastrandonis, who was the proistamenos of the Assumption Church in Chicago. This man was ahead of his time. He saw, for example, the need to reach the next generation of Greek Americans, and he started printing articles and booklets in English in order to educate our people, because they had very little education as to, especially in English, as to what the church teaches and how the church wants us to live and so on and so forth. He was a great influence in my life. And then I had other clergy, like Father Theodore Thalasinos. He was an outstanding priest too, who was a dynamo when it came to the New Testament and St. Paul. So these men were an influence in my life. And of course, being in the Greek American community, I was involved in high school. I went to a high school where we had a professor, a PhD teaching Greek when I was a boy, the American high school. So we had access to, maintenance of our heritage and culture and so on to a much greater extent than young people would have today.
What exactly brought you back after that stint away from full-time priesthood? What brought you back in?
Well, I really never left. It was just that I didn't have a full-time position. The bishop gave me enough work to keep busy forever. He would assign me to different parishes for different periods of time, and that's what I would do. I served in the interim during that 20 years. In addition to serving the St. Demetrios Church in Wildwood, I served the Tenafly Church of the St. John the Theologian, St. George Church in Asbury Park. I forget all of them. And then I would go as a replacement priest when priests would take vacations. And then the bishop assigned me to organize a new parish in Frederick, Maryland, which I did. And that's a thriving community today. In fact, Father Nectarios, who used to serve St. Demetrius in Upper Darby, is the new priest there as of a month or so ago.
You were then transferred down to Wildwood, New Jersey.
1992.
1992. Were you welcomed there? What were there specific goals you had in mind? Were there challenges?
Well, in the priesthood, you always have challenges. The goals are to share your faith with the people, to lead them as a leader, to work together with the other people in the parish, the lay leadership, the ladies, the youth, and so on and so forth. In Wildwood, Wildwood Parish is a very unique parish. It's not like any other parish because it has basically 2 congregations. It has the summertime vacationers, and then it has the local people who live there year-round. So it has it's different from any other parish. That's why in many instances I was challenged to try to find a way to make certain normal aspects of a parish operate.
They were going through a few issues when you had gotten there. The seawall behind the church, a language barrier that had developed between the congregation, socializing, and I think part of the service maybe. Can we talk about those two? Because those were rather big accomplishments again.
Well, the seawall became let's say, got my most attention because I feared that after the people had built such a beautiful church and community center, that the ocean would take it away. And I spoke after we had a big storm. We had a large a northeastern storm in, it had to be January or February, I forget what time of the year it was exactly, of 1993. And we had sand and stones and rocks and boats land on our property from the ocean. So at that time, I became extremely fearful of what was going to happen. And I contacted the governor of New Jersey, Jim Florio, and I spoke to his administrative aide, and I said, would the governor want like a Greek Orthodox church to fall into the ocean while he's governor? And he said, no. I said, well, we need a seawall. So they put our church needs on their agenda, and the Corps of Engineers built a seawall in a few years, and now we're secure from the ocean, from the Atlantic Ocean. And in fact, the parish dedicated a plaque in my name on the ocean front for the accomplishments of the accomplishment of the new seawall.
Well, let's talk about the language issue that was going on down there, because that has broader consequences to the archdiocese in a bigger picture that could evolve.
Well, from the day I became a priest, I realized that we had a language issue, because our people, the older generation knew the Greek language, the younger generation didn't know it. They learned a few things in Greek school. I mean, they know how to say domata or patata or kalimera, but that was about the extent of it. They didn't know too much about church teaching. So when I became a priest, in fact, in Little Rock, I wrote Archbishop Iacovos a letter saying, you better start considering the use of English, because we're not going to be here if we don't accommodate these people that are coming up into the church. Well, anyway, to make a long story short, and I would like to focus on Little Rock just for a moment. Last year, the parish in Little Rock had their 100th anniversary, and they invited Presbyter and myself to attend their events, which was Vesper services, liturgy, a banquet, and so on. So we went there, and I was just amazed. I left the parish in an old Protestant church building in 1967, and now they built a whole new community, which had over 250 families, and they use only English in the services, and that way it's a Greek Orthodox church. They only use English in the services, and they accommodate for the 18 different ethnic nationalities that they have in the church.
Well, it seems like you've accomplished quite a bit between these two congregations here in New Jersey. Is there more to accomplish in Wildwood, and what about the future? Is there something in the future you'd like to accomplish?
First of all, I must emphasize the fact that whatever I have managed to accomplish in the course of my ministry has been accomplished with the work of many people, many people. Without people, the priest is nothing. It's like a captain on a boat with no crew. But with a captain and with a crew, we can do a lot. And I feel that almost everything that I have accomplished in the course of my ministry has been accomplished through the love of many, many people. And I'm extremely grateful for that. Now, as far as the challenges go for the future, there's always challenges in the future. In Wildwood, I continue to create new ideas and new efforts and new programs and new endeavors and new activities in order to keep the people connected. To give you one example, this past fall, we had people in the parish who wanted to close our Greek school. And I said, no, we're not going to close the Greek school. I said, what are the issues? I found out what the issues were. I found a new teacher, and we have the Greek school off and running. And I did the Agora just a few weeks ago for the commencement of the new academic year, and the people are thrilled. So when problems arise, it's important that we address them. And I've always been at the forefront of addressing issues, and of course, getting a team behind me to do them. Archbishop Iacovos told me many years ago that if you're going to start a war, make sure you have an army. Well, a priest needs an army in everything that he's doing in his ministry. And the army has to be committed to the success of an issue. I go back now a little bit to the parish of Cherry Hill. We had economic problems in Cherry Hill years ago, and at that time, I had been one of the leaders of the stewardship programs, that is for the people to contribute to the church according to their ability and not a set fee. You know, it's not like a club where you pay $100 a year or $200 a year and you're a member, but that everyone should contribute for the support of the church according to their ability. So we went in Cherry Hill. We spent 2 years preparing the people for this effort. I brought priests in, I brought lay people in to speak to the congregation. We had General Assembly meetings and so on. And in the course of those efforts, and of course I took a very, very intimate part in all of everything we did, because I'm not a leader that just tells someone else to go and do something. I lead with my actions and my work. So, and I've always been that way. So what we did is we instituted the stewardship program, and we went in 1 year from $60,000 a year income to $160,000. And this is back 20-some years ago, almost 25, 30 years ago, which goes to show you that our people do love the church. They do care about their responsibilities and so on, but they have to be sometimes better educated as to what they can do and how they can do it. And I'm going to continue to do that in Wildwood and wherever the Lord gives me to serve in the future.
Let's talk about the priesthood. You've been in it now for 50 years. What makes a good priest?
Well, now that I'm 50 years a priest, I am mentoring younger priests. And I give them 3 bits of advice. The one is, you love all the members of your congregation, whether they're young or old, rich or poor, whatever they are. You love all of them. If somebody bothers you, forgive them, because you're going to have people who disagree with you and people who, you know, think their way is better. And the third is to ask people that you bother to forgive you, because we're human beings too and we make errors. So with that kind of advice, I'm seeking to mentor younger priests, primarily to love the people. Love is at the heart of Christianity. Love should always be at the heart of the priest's work and ministry.
Let's talk about a little bit the community and the church. Where are there areas we can actually improve inside the community here in Philadelphia? What do you feel is an area that deserves some attention?
Well, getting people to work together from different places and different organizations is not an easy task. I mean, it's a very difficult task to bring people in from different areas, and whether it's a church or clubs or organizations, because we have a tendency to be ghettoized, and we have a tendency to think of enclaves. So we have an enclave of Hellenism in Cherry Hill, an enclave in Philadelphia, an enclave in Media, and so on and so forth. What we have to do is have the ability to share the greatness of our heritage, the greatness of our faith, and attract people to working together for some common good. Like, for example, the Historical Society here in Philadelphia that's being organized and has been organized. This could be terrific because it can give us the opportunity to replicate what has been done in Chicago with the Hellenic Museum, by having a Hellenic Museum here and sharing our heritage with the general public. If you have a diamond and you keep it to yourself, no one knows about it. But when you have a diamond and you share it with others, they appreciate it, they talk about it, and it becomes a part of their life too. So we have a diamond in our Orthodox faith and in our Greek heritage, and I believe that that diamond has to be shared.
A final question.
Yes, sir.
50 years later, everyone evolves and does some changing. How has your belief or your faith changed you?
My size has changed me. I'm not what I used to be. In fact, there was a lady in my first parish in Little Rock, and she said to me, "Εσύ δεν κάνεις για παπάς." So I said to her, "Γιατί κυρία μου, διότι δεν έχεις κοιλιά." So I said, after 50 years, I finally have the κοιλιά. As far as the future goes, you know, I'm in God's hands. Now I'm preparing for the end of my life. I'm looking forward to the conclusion and to giving an apologia before God, an apologia before God for my life and ministry. It's been a wonderful journey. I have no complaints. I've learned from the negative experiences and from the positive experiences to be grateful for the opportunity to have served. Because as Jesus said to his disciples in preparing them for the ministry, he said, go out and teach them everything that I have given you and baptize them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. That is what I have sought to do in my ministry, is to go out, teach, preach, share my faith in my ministry, and always constantly try to improve my own. That's why you see all these books here, and that's why I enjoy the internet, because I can reach out into the world of education and get new ideas. And as I mentioned to you not too long ago, I learned a new word, which is an American word, and it was axiology, A-X-I-O-L-O-G-Y. And I said, that name sounds like a Greek word. So I looked it up in the dictionary, and axiology is the study of values, axios. These are the things that we have never shared enough with our people, is the fact that our Hellenic heritage is so rich that and such a plethora of education is out there in the Greek language. You cannot be a doctor today and not know Greek, because almost all the terminology they use is Greek. And our young people have to get the benefits of being bilingual. Any child that knows Greek and English is going to be enlightened from two different worlds, two unique worlds. And I think that that's a very important part of what I have experienced and in my life. Thank you.
Father Stephen Vlahos, thank you for talking with us today. We wish you well with all your endeavors and to the next 50 years.
Thank you. If I live 50 more years, I will wait for you to meet with me. If not, you can come to my Macaria.